Most of us are running on other people's expectations like a factory setting, like default, and we call it drive. But today we are breaking that all up. This episode is about waking up from the hustle you were handed and choosing the life you're here to create. Why now? Because the world is loud, it's polarized, it's reactive. And if you don't learn to pause and reset, you're going to be pushed into that default. Welcome to Be Unmessablewith, the podcast. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and Susanne Goldstein is my guest today. She is a change maker on a mission to elevate humanity. She's a highly sought after executive coach, strategic consultant, keynote speaker, program creator, and an industry disrupting thought leader on society and societal and social change. Susanne spent over 2 decades as one of the only women in the room, coaching and consulting to men building tech startups and Fortune 500 businesses. During that time, she took herself through her own waking up, and she actually realized in the process how deeply the often lauded masculine energy hustle culture in the US was causing deep unhappiness and burnout in society, especially for women. I'm so happy she said yes to being on the show, so let's welcome Susanne Goldstein.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, it's so nice to have you. And where in the world are you doing this interview from?
I'm in Los Angeles at the moment.
In LA, and I'm in New York. So we're across the country, but uniting together in the spirit of being unmessable with. So Susanne, I know you work with lots of people and executives, and you came from a world of primarily male dominance, let's put it that way, and now work mostly with women. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up doing what you're doing and why you're so passionate about it.
Thank you. I'm one of those weird humans that discovered my calling when I was 5 years old. And then the universe kind of gave me every adjustment bureau moment to prove to the universe that I was worthy of this mission. And that's really how I feel about my life. And, what happened is I came from a very high performing family. It was good grades and athletic prowess. And that's what we were brought up. That was the curriculum I was raised on. And so I went out into the world to be this exceptional human from an intellectual standpoint. But growing up in that environment, I was an emotional kid. And I knew my purpose from a young age, and my purpose didn't have to do with intellectualism, and my purpose didn't have to do with making money. I mean, money matters, and I love making money, but I love the idea more of living your purpose and the money will follow. And so I set out on my career, very much in the duality of what my family wanted and what I wanted. And I went to school and I studied to be a mechanical engineer because that's what our family did. But
Wow,
because
how specific.
Very specific, is to be an engineer. And then I also, because I'm me, wanted to study in the arts and the art, specifically theater and film. Like that's where my heart was. I wanted to use entertainment as a way of transmitting messages that mattered. And so I got a degree in theater and film at the same time as I got a degree in mechanical engineering. And I had the same discussion with my parents every single Sunday for my entire senior year, which is, Susanne, there's all kinds of people interviewing on campus for engineers. There's so few women engineers. You should interview on campus. And I was like, no, I want to work in the arts. And my parents basically said, okay, fine, you're on your own. And so a story I can tell for another day, sat on the couch at the National Theatre of Great Britain in London for 8 straight days until someone would hire me. And the guy I finally was introduced to said, I need someone who knows mechanical drafting and knows theater.
How perfect.
And so the universe kind of set out that way. And so I've been manifesting this interesting career my whole life. And what ended up happening is I went from London and working in theater there and then film there to working in film in Los Angeles. And I really ended up, produced my first movie for Disney when I was 27. And I was surrounded by people whose value system did not match mine.
Mm.
And I thought, what can I do about this? And it was the beginning of the pre-dot-com era. We were doing CD-ROMs and building stuff that way. And I got asked to build a big website for a company. And it was so far out of my bailiwick. But, if you've been brought up to solve problems and use your intellect, I figured it out. So I ended up in technology at the beginning of the web. And I was one of the first architects on the web.
You
And
don't look old enough to have been one of the first architects on the web, but I'll give it to you.
thank you. I'm proudly 60 years old and I'm happy about it. And, I think I always say I'm a late bloomer. And I'm so glad because I feel like I need another 60 years in this
Yes.
lifetime to just accomplish the things that I feel like are important for our world. And so what happened is I was working with men at the beginning of the dot-com era. And I faced every nastiness a woman in technology could face, being the only woman in the room, including, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
I guess. I don't know who's policing it.
I was in a room full of 20 men and me. We were working at the beginning of the internet. I'm talking pre-blink tag. If you remember the blink tag, that was a big thing for us.
I don't remember the blink tag, but my memory's not. I'm 57, but my memory's not so good.
It's not your story, so I wouldn't expect it. But, what happened is I asked a question, God forbid, at the beginning of the internet in a room full of 20 guys who were technologists, and I was not. And I was told I was the stupidest fucking person that they'd ever met in their life.
Wow.
And I walked out of the room and I quit. And I was like, I emotionally can be messed with at that age of my life, but you can't mess with me by like embarrassing me and humiliating me in front of other people. Like that I had a boundary for. The rest I didn't. And so I ended up in technology on and off for 20 years. I then went into social entrepreneurship. I taught social entrepreneurship at the Kennedy School at Harvard, ended up writing a book about like manifesting your life. And I've just done a lot of things. But along the way, the whole throughput was that I've been coaching people probably since I was 8 years old. It's like everybody's always come to me for advice, even if it's a category I know nothing about. And so I really honed my craft with those young bucks in the technology world. They knew how to do the technology behind a business, but they didn't know how to bring something to market. They didn't know how to build a product. And so they had to learn, and I coached them through a lot of this. And so it's been a fascinating career. And then the tail end of the story is in the 2016 presidential election, I was the CEO of a diversity, equity, inclusion consulting firm. And I saw what was happening. And I said to the business owner who had hired me, I think that as a Jewish Ivy League educated CEO of a D&I firm, that I need to go figure out what's happening in white rural America. Do you mind if I take some time? And she's like, no, I think it's a great idea. So I crowdfunded $45,000, hired a film crew, and went to rural Alabama. I ended up quitting my cushy CEO job and hosted these adult exchange programs to try to get people from Alabama to Boston to walk in each other's shoes. And then I brought people from Boston to Alabama. And what I realized bringing it to every studio, so I filmed this thing over almost 3 years, brought it to every studio here in Hollywood, had a conversation with everyone. They loved what we were doing, but they were terrified of it. I mean, this is polarization.
Yeah, it would
on
take courage
steroids.
to release that for a studio.
It would take courage, exactly. And I went to Netflix, and great people, really amazing people. And they said, Susanne, we love your work. We love what you're doing. It's absolutely gorgeous. The characters are interesting, but we want stuff on our platform that's going to be relevant in 10 years. And I burst out laughing in the room. And they're like, why are you laughing at us? And I said, I think your hopefulness is cute. And so I had this moment, kind of like, boom, lightning strike, where I realized that people were so deeply in the bubbles on both sides that I actually resigned all party affiliation and started working to heal what's going on with humanity, to wake people the fuck up and
Yeah.
have them start walking outside of the matrix. And that's what I've been doing for the past 5.5 years, but it's really been a 60-year journey or a 55-year journey.
It sounds like the accumulation of all your experiences. And, I can say I know that some people listening are entrepreneurs or founders or, executives, male and female. But when you were the only woman in the room, so to speak, what was it that you drew upon to be able to express your confidence and your self-worth? Because I know that's what you work with women on, right? And you develop programs for people to overcome their self-worth and self-confidence gaps. What was it that you found really worked that somebody that's listening to this podcast, male or female, could start practicing immediately or start implementing immediately after listening to this?
Mm, I just want to reiterate, I wasn't good at it in my 20s and 30s.
I get it. Yes, we develop courses we should have done ourselves 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
We teach what we learn, right?
Yes.
And mine has evolved over time. And I think that the thing I show people the most is when you awaken to the masculine energy hustle culture that we live in, and you start to recognize that a lot of your drive what we think is our internal drive is actually an external driver. And when we awaken to that, and then we start to recognize and understand the system that we live in, that was built by certain people for certain people and advantages certain people, that we have taken on those characteristics in order to attempt to be successful within this matrix. I use movies in all of my work. The Matrix movie plays very big in what I do. I watch all 4 Matrix movies back to back to back every New Year's Eve day as my consciousness raising. Here's how I want to step into the new year. And I think what I show people the most is once they do those 2 steps, if you fortify your emotional intelligence, if you learn to fill your own cup, this is the biggest piece right here. 1 golden grain of sand at a time. It might take you 40 years like it took me. 1 golden grain of sand at a time. If we can fill our own cup and we stop expecting our affirmation and our love to come externally, we are internally filled with unconditional love. It is the hardest and the most powerful thing that we can ever do. And it may seem impossible, but it just starts with 1 grain of sand.
Well, give us one of those grains of sand. So, if somebody's listening, and I get it, it's 1 grain of sand at a time, but what would be a practice or an action that somebody could take on out of this conversation that would be a grain of sand?
Mm-hmm. It really depends where you are on your journey. If you're someone who deals with depression, which was my big thing, is I dealt with chronic depression and PTSD for years. My grain of sand as I healed was to remind myself every morning when I woke up that I'm no longer a depressed person.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is that our brains are extraordinary, and they also are problematic. We build neural pathways that thicken over time so that we can make decisions very quickly. And that's what we need it. Otherwise, if you had to stop and think, how do I brush my teeth every day? You would never get anywhere, or you'd never leave the bathroom. You're like, what do I do now? So are those neural pathways that go through our brains are what I call our familiar patterns. And if you have a familiar pattern that is a certain way, I like to say you got to interrupt your own status quo. You've got to recognize the neural pathway, that this is what I do when these things happen. And we have to pause. And when a stimulus comes at us, take a second. Just take a second. So when I was 27 years old, I was in the film business and I was starting to become one of those people. I threw a chair at an ex-boyfriend, and I'm not proud of this moment, but I decided to change my life at that time. I was in Hollywood. Everyone was full of drama. And I decided to give myself a theme for that year, that to only be dramatic when drama was necessary. And what I learned, and this is like pre-personal development, right? I know that you were involved in Landmark, and before that there was EST.
And I did the S
And
training when I was 11, so 46 years of transformation for me.
oh my goodness, that is incredible. So there was that going on, but besides that, like personal development was not pop culture. It was not something you learned about. And so I was kind of on my own. Didn't have a family that knew how to support me in this. And what I realized from studying my own behavior for that year of only being dramatic when drama was necessary is that when a stimulus came at me, I realized that there was this moment in time. For those of you who can't see, I'm making a fork in the road with my hands. There's this moment in time where I got to choose. Did I want to respond or did I want to react?
Mm-hmm.
My reaction is the neural pathway, my natural way of being, the thing that I do as a result of years and years and years of me being a certain way. When a stimulus came in of a certain sort, I would react this way, or I would react that way, or react that way. And what I realized at age 27 is that I could be choiceful. And this was unknown to me because choice does not exist in the matrix, does not exist in the system. The system counts on us being in reaction. And so I started developing a technique that anyone can try, is that you take your palm of your hands and you're making them into a little V. Imagine that the base of the palm of your hands are spreading out just a little bit. That I call the millisecond. And if you can slow down time and really look at a situation before you are in reaction, just give yourself a pause of nothingness. In that nothingness, you can become choiceful. You can decide to respond. You can decide how you want to be. And so I think, like, if I were to say what the grains of sand are, it's finding out the tools and the techniques that work for you to help you move in my world of spiritual consciousness. And how we grow is to move out of what is called 3D, this world that we live in, into the 4D, meaning, oh, there might be something else out there, into the 5D, which is the realm of consciousness. And when we start to live from our conscious mind instead of our unconscious mind, because 95% of our behavior comes from our unconscious mind, only 5% of the things we do we're conscious about, meaning our reactions and our emotions. If we start living from our consciousness, we actually can co-create everything we want. And so those grains of sand, as they build, you become more confident in your ability to become choiceful, to not react to things that are hurtful, to not react to the stimulus that would normally tweak you in some way.
It's so funny. I can see why our mutual friend Jen introduced us, because the work that I do about being unmessable with is shifting from the world of reaction to the world of creation. And that nanosecond of neutral, which is a nanosecond, it's like, how do you hack your reaction, which is all that reptilian part of your brain, get to neutral and stay in the space of vision and creation and have your actions be given by that versus driven by your automatic default reactions, which requires nothing because it's automatic and it's already going to happen. So it's interesting listening to you. I'm like, oh, no wonder Jen introduced us. There you go.
I
Very
love that.
cool.
And I love the
Yeah.
framing you're giving it too. Like, that's the thing, is like, powerful women and powerful men, but we're two women here. We have the ability to create new models for ourselves. If we think of ourselves as co-creators with the universe, and that our job is to make sure the universe knows what we desire. So I call it playing volleyball with the universe. You throw up a volleyball and you're in a constant game of volleyball with the universe. And the volleyball, the game that we're playing with the universe, is simply a game of I throw it up, the universe looks at it, reflects it, and throws it back to me. So if I throw up a beautiful ball of my desires and my imaginations and my vision and my possibilities, the universe is going to look and go, oh, she's so excited about all these things. It's going to throw me back that volleyball. I'm going to catch it. And I'm going to be like, oh, yay, fun. Let's keep going, which builds my confidence. It builds my worthiness. It builds my self-love. And I keep going because my self-doubt goes down. But if I throw up a volleyball and I'm pretending that it's like a really solid volleyball, but the universe gets it and it sees it's full of shit, And it goes, oh, she loves shit. So it throws me back a shit ball. And if I
Mm-hmm.
catch that shit ball, guess what happens to me? I get covered in shit.
Yep.
We got to be super careful about this game of volleyball that we're constantly playing with the universe and how we set our intentions about what we do. And that to me is when we understand I'm co-creating. By working with myself and my fears and my low, slow energy emotions, I can elevate them and I can make my requests or my co-creations with the universe from a higher vibrational energy. And when I'm in that higher vibrational energy, I get back an energetic match to that higher vibrational energy. And then my life becomes extraordinary.
There
And
you
this
go.
is true for everybody who does this, not just me.
Yeah, no, it is practicable and developable. It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. I say that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, I know this is a question I ask everybody who comes on the show. You know, we're called Be Unmessable With, which is not about being tough or impervious to your feelings. It's about being able to fulfill on your vision and act from there versus that world of reaction and automaticity. So give me a situation in your life where you were dealing with such a difficult circumstance that it just could have taken you out. It could have taken you out of the game, totally messed with you. Maybe it did mess with you for a period of time, but somehow you were able to draw upon something to rise above it, to transcend that messable with moment to be unmessable with. What comes to mind?
So many things
I know when you
where I
get to
was
be our
messed
age,
with.
it's kind of like pick a topic. I got 6 things in each topic.
Seriously. And uh, there's a big story in my life where someone messed with me in a big way. I was on a film, my first big movie in London. I was assistant to this Academy Award winning movie director called John Schlesinger. We were working on believe it or not, a Shirley MacLaine movie. I'm wearing a crystal on my neck, an apophyllite, which connects you to the angelic realms. Well, she gave me my first crystal when I was 22. And I was on this film, and there was an older woman who was the producer of this movie, and she hated me. I
Mm.
was this young blonde American girl who John Schlesinger absolutely loved, and he called her the C word because she was not a nice person. And she tried a lot of methods to have me actually thrown off the movie. She started rumors about me doing drugs with the guys who drove the trucks. And the truck drivers told John that was a lie. She made up a story about how the assistant directors hated working with me. John went to the assistant directors and said, do you hate working with Susanne? No, that's a lie. She took away my pay. So John started paying me out of his own pocket. I was living with my fiance in London at the time. I had a male editor on that film try to give me some really important advice, which is you need to decide as a woman in the film business, do you want to get married and have children or do you want to be successful? Like this was a period of my life where everybody was doing things that were really untoward. But the worst one was when this woman was desperate to get me off the film. And so she went to the military police in the UK and told them I was there past my visa. And it was devastating. Like, I mean, devastating. I went into suicidal ideation. I broke. I really broke. And I look back on that now. And I talk about in my work, especially in the corporate arena, when one woman during the 80s and 90s managed to scrabble her way to the top, meaning she figured out how to get a corner office. Whenever there's anyone coming up behind her, if she is fear driven, she will take her little Prada shoe and stomp on the head of the woman who's trying to rise behind her. She's not the one who's reaching back and bringing women with her. She is the one who is preventing another woman from rising. I learned that when I was 22, 23 years old. But at the time, I didn't know that's what I was learning. And to say that it has informed my life is a grand understatement. I think the reason I teach feminine energetics is because I dealt with so much toxic masculine in my life, including her. she was in her unhealthy masculine when she was attacking me and being competitive with me. And she was 72 years old. She had no business attacking a 22-year-old. It was ridiculous. So I think that it took me many years to learn and recover from that. It led to me developing the millisecond and learning how to become choiceful 5 years later when I was 27. It led to my deep need to heal my depression and PTSD. I had to go through the suicide attempt to get to the other side. And that's the ultimate in messing with, is someone who can get so inside your head that you believe that you're not worth the pillow that you put your head down on that night. And to know how to get out the other side of that, to me, is extraordinary.
Well, what did you draw upon to get out the other side? And the only thing I would say is when you say people who know how to get into your, I would argue she said what she said, did what she did, but your belief that you're not worth it is what messed with you, not what she did or said. Because now, if somebody did or said that, it wouldn't mess with you at all.
No, it
So
wouldn't.
so it's like, what did you actually use? If you can articulate it, who knows? Maybe looking back, it's hard to see that enabled you to get out of that I'm not worth it, I'm not worthy to even live, which is like pretty much as bottom as you can get, right? What did you pull upon to move to the other side, as you say?
I think the first thing is that I got a therapist. I think that was crucial. I had never had any coaching. My family is not one that like sits down and talks about emotions. So, it was like, if you could just get your shit together, you wouldn't need a therapist. I was like,
Right.
the reason I need a therapist is because I can't get my shit together. So I'm a big fan of therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy. I use it a lot in my work. I think that the thing that I did, if I were to look back from 22 to 40, which is when I had my second crash, and then it was the universe saying, okay, we're taking you down to your knees again because you didn't learn everything the first time.
Right.
And from 22 to 40, I would say what I did is I gave myself a theme every single year. So the first theme I ever gave myself was to only be dramatic when drama is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But the next year, once I mastered that, I gave myself another theme and another theme and another theme. I actually now teach a program on themes, because when we give ourselves this spacious assignment, as opposed to like New Year's resolutions, which everyone fails at because it's binary, you either made it or you didn't. When you give yourself a theme, you do it differently. And so what I did over time is every year I said, this is the thing I want to improve about myself in the year ahead. And it was never, I want more money, or I want a better job, or I want to meet the guy. It was always, who do I want to be next? And I think, so I started from a very young age versioning myself. And let me explain what that means. You know how like every once in a while on your phone, you get a message and it says time for an upgrade? I think about, maybe because I'm an engineer, my humanware, my brain, as upgradable. And I started off as Susanne version 1 in the 3D realm, depressed, had a hard time, all the things. And when I finished that first year, it was 1992, of only be dramatic when drama is necessary, and discovered the tool I call the millisecond and choice. I gave myself an upgrade to Susanne 2.0. And every year since, still to this day, I'm in constant upgrade mode. So I'm currently Susanne version 34.0. I was sitting at 33.1 for a very long time, and I went into silence in August, and all the answers came through, and I was like, boom, big upgrade. I have taken so many of those themes and tools that I learned through this process, and I've made them into things that are teachable. And I like to think that I mentioned earlier, we have our subconscious or unconscious mind, and it runs 95% of our behavior. And we have our conscious mind, which runs 5%. Well, there's this little layer most of us don't know about called the preconscious mind. So if I said to you, Josselyne, what's your phone number? You'd be like, da 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 da. But if I said to you, what's your passport number? You'd probably go, I need to go grab my passport. It's not something you've installed in your preconscious mind that you have very quick access to. But if I can install the Millisecond tool in someone and they accept the installation and they work with it and they build the muscle around it, they now can start to see the world through that upgraded lens. So then if I install over time 20 tools with them, because I love to make things, I love to create frameworks. It's the engineer in me. And so I have tons of these frameworks and tools that I teach people all the time. And it came out of what I was teaching myself and the recovery that I became.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how do people find you if they want to work with you or learn more about what you do?
Thank you. The best way to find me is on my website, which is SusanneGoldstein.com. My name is spelled SusanneGoldstein.com.
And we'll have it in the show notes for sure, links so they
Perfect.
can easily get to it.
And you can write to me at hello@SusanneGoldstein.com. You can also find me anywhere on socials at Follow Susanne. I just hope for our world that more people keep choosing to wake up, that we keep working on it. And I want to say for the record, and I don't know if you feel this way as well, you've done this work even longer than I have. People think, oh my God, Susanne, you've been doing this forever. And I'm like, I'm not the first, but I will say that as we continue to do the work, it doesn't mean we're perfect, right? I have days where I turn to my partner and I go, grumble, grumble, grumble. And it means I'm in a bad mood and just can't find my way out of it right now. But I am self-aware enough to not take it out on him. So I just say, grumble, grumble, grumble. And he knows to keep clear. And so it's really working with yourself and understanding that there's no perfection, there's only progress.
Great. We will put all of your links and socials in the show notes so people can easily click and not have to remember spelling, which is always like a horrible thing for me. Spelling is not my friend, but it is also made up. And I just
And
thank
it's
you.
casting spells.
Yes, exactly. So thanks so much for your time and for being here and for your wisdom. And for those of you listening, if this made a difference for you, if you heard something, even just one little golden grain of sand, then make sure to rate and review the episode and share it with anybody that you think it would make a difference for. And until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of Be Unmessable with, the podcast.
Power lives in a millisecond. That tiny fork in the road where you get to choose creation over reaction. That's where confidence gets built and self-trust begins to strengthen, one daily practice at a time. So, grab my free daily practices guide. It's simple, it's repeatable, it's a routine that you can use to pause, reflect, and reset to your vision instead of reaction. Download it now. The link is right below. And if this landed for you, keep your momentum going and watch the next video. My name's Josselyne, and I will meet you in the next video.